Hi everyone, Stepan here. Today I'm going to show you a simple aggressive Italian repertoire for white. We are here in Versailles. This is Milan. If you don't know him, hi Milan. Vlatko is in the bathroom now. We just came last night. The tournament is starting today. So yeah. Anyway, if you play e4 and you don't know what to do against e5, then there are several options. You could play the Vienna, the King's Gambit, or you could just play knight f3. Most people against knight f3 are going to play knight c6, although there are some sidelines that you have to learn, like the Petrov and other minor things, but most games should go knight c6. And now, on the highest level, people have started playing the Italian more and more, so it no longer has a reputation of being less good than the Spanish. And the Italian is what I've been playing for years, for 6 years. I never really had enough courage to start playing the Spanish. So bishop c4. And I've tried to make this repertoire very simple. Milan doesn't know what I'm going to recommend, so he's going to be the judge of it. And if there's something stupid, he's just going to say that's stupid. And we're going to discuss it. I've tried to create a simple, aggressive repertoire you can start playing today. That was the idea. And this may not be intended for very high-rated people. Milan is a FIDE master, so if you're a FIDE master, this isn't going to be detailed enough, but it's going to be enough to cover all the basics for everyone of my rating, let's say. So we're going to be looking at every sensible move for black. We're going to look at knight f6 and bishop c5, which are the main moves, and they lead to many positions, but we're also going to have a look at bishop e7 and g6 and d6, which are slightly odd compared to the main moves. By far, the two most popular are bishop c5 and knight f6. And against both, we're going to play the most aggressive way. Let's start with knight f6. So, before we go on with the video, I'm going to show you what I did with this Italian repertoire. I imported it into Nocti, and if you've seen my videos before, you may have heard me talk about it before. Nocti is a great tool for practicing chess and basically pretending that you have a human willing to play chess against you forever and ever and ever, instead of having to play an engine. So, Nocti is a human-like AI, and you can play any type of position against it. It's going to play like a human opponent, try to trick you if it's losing. It's not always going to be precise when it's winning, and it's going to be imprecise in a human way, not in a crazy engine way where it just hangs pieces. So what you can do with Nocti, well, there are many things. My favorite things are themes. So as you can see here, I have a million themes. So Čupić he's coming here today to Versailles. My game against him where I messed up. Bedić, played him, had a winning position, ended in a draw. So any one of my games that I mess up, I'm going to play it out against Nocti, and that helps. Another thing you can do is repertoire. So what I did for many repertoires, and for this Italian one, is I've imported it. So if you follow the link below, you will find the exact openings and moves or variations and moves I've shown in the video, and I'm going to show in the rest of the video, and you can play them out against Nocti. So instead of learning mindlessly all the theoretical lines, you can play them out. So set Nocti to any difficulty you want. So I set it up to Rook 2 because that's a high rating. Let's say I want it on Bishop 4. We play a blitz game. I'm going to play white because this is a white repertoire, and let's see what Nocti does. Nocti is going to be giving you immediate feedback for all of your moves. So if you make a mistake, you're going to know why. So here we castle. If Nocti plays knight f6, we play the Deutz Gambit. Okay, it's playing the Max Lange. Takes, let's see what happens. So rook e1, knight g5. Okay, took with the pawn. Well, this is just bad. This is awful. This is
with the queen.
Oh,
the same trick.
Wait, what did I do?
Queen h5.
Oh, queen h5. I messed up. Duh! Sorry, Milan and Vlatko. I played too quickly. Okay, so instead we play queen h5. You can go back. Yeah. Okay. So Nocti blundered. We're gonna do another game and set it to a higher difficulty. Let's set it to rook 1. I'm guessing it's not gonna make Okay, it's not a very simple mistake. Vlatko says his 1900 rated opponents blunder into that, but I would say bishop 4 is about 1900 anyway. Plays bishop c5 again. Let's see. Now we have to play the Giuoco Pian. I was hoping for that again. Okay. Let's go bishop e3. d5 now. Wait, did I make a mistake? No, maybe I should have gone h3. No, but that...
But this was in the repertoire, I think, or... When you take...
Yeah, okay, takes. Now I take on b6. Yeah, okay, I got confused. And knight d2. Queen takes. Now we're gonna see what happens. Can I take on b7?
He might take on c4.
Takes, but takes on d... But
c3 hangs, maybe, in the end.
But c7 hangs. And I'll have a passed b pawn. So let's see. Queen b7, knight c4, knight c4, queen c3, queen c7, rook c8 loses. Yeah, okay, I don't like that. Okay, let's go.
a4 hangs.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. No, I have to go back. This is a very stupid mistake. Milan, help me.
Maybe bishop b3 and then rook a1. To stabilize and then...
Okay, it's still hard to play c6. It's just okay. What was great here? There must have been something great. I don't want to play d4. Can we go bishop? No.
Maybe you should provoke b6 with knight c4.
Can black play knight c5 anyway and give the a pawn to exchange the bishop? Probably not.
No, but you go back to c2 because if you take on a5, you have to deal with rook a8 or...
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's okay. I'm gonna go to c2 anyway. Maybe, can I play for c6 somehow? Can I go knight e3? No.
Maybe d4 now.
But if they take, rook takes, knight c5, bishop c2. Okay, that's okay. No, there's no knight c5. The queen's hanging. Okay.
You take with the pawn, not with the rook.
Take with the pawn? Explain, I'm not good enough.
With the knight.
Yeah, but when I... Okay, it doesn't take. Can we go queen c6?
Yeah, looks pretty good.
Yes, the first great move.
Now he's cracking.
Okay, if we take on f6, knight takes d, if f takes, maybe d5? No, d5, knight c5.
I guess we should watch out for knight f4 ideas and some...
Can we go knight e3? No, then we're not winning the e pawn. We have a minute and 50. We have to hurry up. Queen takes, G takes.
Knight e3.
Let's do that. We're wasting too much time. We have the f5 square. It looks good. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know what to do.
Take on e5.
Why?
Well, if he takes with a knight, pawns are still doubled. If he takes with the pawn, knight g4. With the threat of
smart.
rook d7.
Okay.
Ah.
Thank you, Milan. that was great.
Very insightful.
It's nice to have a FIDE master next to you. I don't know what to do now. Oh.
Bishop c2.
Thank you. I'm just gonna resign. This was. Why did you? Okay, let's go back. Let's see what we should have done. It says instead of your great idea.
Brilliant.
H4. I like H4. I don't understand G3. I would never play F4, although I like it now. F4 seems nice. Okay, so yeah, we ended up playing a full game. This is what I do. This is how I learn openings, and it's much better than studying theoretical lines. If you want to visit Nocti and go premium, use the code Hanging Pawns to get a 64% discount. Now let's go back to the Italian repertoire. Bye. So Knight f6 is a move that Black plays in order to, of course, develop the king side, but there is a downside. There is a problem with the f7 pawn. So notice that the queen no longer defends the g5 square, so knight g5 becomes possible, which isn't the case if Black starts with bishop c5. So we're going to play what's called the knight attack with bishop g5 and just put pressure on the pawn. There are two ways for Black to play. There is something that's called the Traxler Counterattack, which I don't want to say that it's not good, but it's... Would you say it's not good?
With the most precise play, it's
Yeah.
very bad.
If Black is playing against an engine, they're going to lose every time, but I myself have lost numerous online games against it. I've never faced it in a tournament game, I think. So bishop c5 is weird. We're going to look at that in the next part of the video. For now, we're just going to focus on the only really sensible move, which is d5. And the idea behind d5 is you block the influence on the bishop on f7. If you want, there's a full detailed video on this and everything I'm going to recommend in the description, in the comments below. So you can watch a full video on each variation we're going to go over. In this video, I'm just going to give you the basics. So your bishop's attacked, your pawn's attacked, you take. And Black has three ways to deal with this. There is knight d4 and b5, which are slightly odd, suboptimal, and you will encounter them, in my experience, once in every 20 games or something like that. Most people, and we are going to look at that, but most people are going to go knight a5. And the idea is you don't have time to play something like d6 and put pressure on the pawn because your bishop's hanging. However, the c6 square is under this pawn's control, so we can continue this forced line with bishop b5. Black plays c6. This is all mainline theory you're going to learn in about a minute. And it's not complicated, and you should be playing this at tempo without using any time. So you take, it looks forced, it's forced, Black takes back, and now your bishop is attacked. The two main moves here are the old bishop e2, which is what Bobby Fischer used to play, and in the 60s, 70s, this was the main move. And the new modern move, bishop d3, which is what people play now. It's the best engine move, and it leads to very complicated positions for not just beginners, but for anyone below master level, I would say, because you're blocking your d pawn. And I've played bishop e2 and bishop d3 in tournament games. And even though when I manage to do something with my d-pawn, I get better positions with bishop d3. When I don't, then I'm in trouble very early. So bishop d3 is the best move, but in my opinion, it's the riskiest one. I'm not going to recommend either. We're going to be looking at the move queen f3. This is the third good move for white. And the tactical justification of this piece sacrifice is that it's not really a sacrifice. The rook on a8 is hanging, therefore the c-pawn is pinned. Now, there is a line where black actually takes the bishop, and it's perfectly fine for black. In fact, there are probably 4 moves which are fine for black, so there is a lot you have to learn here. But I myself have played this in 2 tournament games, one against a Macedonian player rated 2050, I think, where I won. He played rook b8, and another one against a Serbian opponent. I played that in Parachin. Do you remember his rating?
Božilov?
I don't remember the name, but he was around my rating. And
yes, I think he was 1950 or...
Yeah, something like that. So I won both games. And it's a very tricky move to face. So the move people play most often is rook b8, because that unpins and puts pressure on the bishop. Vlatko, come and look. Queen f3. Vlatko just came out of the bathroom, so he's, yeah.
Hi.
Hi. So that attacks your bishop, and you have to do something, so you have to retreat the bishop. I usually played bishop a4, which isn't a great move according to the engine, but it makes sense because it keeps the pawn pinned and reduces black's options. Now, one idea with this knight on a5 in many, many, many lines with both queen f3 and bishop e2 is to move the pawn to c5 and then to reroute the knight to c6 and maybe then to d4. So by keeping the bishop on a4, you're simply preventing that. But today, I'm going to recommend the move bishop d3. Now, you may be wondering, why would you play queen f3 and then still block your d-pawn? It's slightly different now, because you have a lot of pressure on the king side, and this bishop controls the e4 square along with the queen. And one of the most common ways for black to attack in this system, and in all systems with the knight on a5 and these 2 pawns, so in the knight attack, is to move the knight to d5 and then play for f5, e4, either forking 2 pieces or just advancing and gaining space and starting a menacing attack. So now with the bishop and the queen and the knight, we have a lot more control over e4. So in my opinion, this gets easier to play. And in many cases, we may even be able to play the move knight c3. Not that we have to play knight c3 or that we want to, but in some cases we will be able to. Okay, black normally continues developing. And they have to castle before moving this knight because, of course, f7 is hanging. So both sides castle. And there are many ways to play from here, but I like b3. And the second thematic maneuver, attacking maneuver for black, is rook b4 and getting the rook to the king side. And then perhaps, again, starting an attack. So if they don't play rook b4, I don't know. We can turn on the book. People play h6 or rook b4 or knight d5. Knight d5 is another sensible option, trying to play for f5. As I said, I'm not going to give you all the details, but let's say rook b4. If you can play c4, play c4. And black is going to reroute the knight to c6 and to d4. You have a big hole here, but you're going to cover it with b2. And all you have to watch out for is f5, e4. And as is the case in all of these knight attacks, you are up a pawn. And it may not be the best pawn in the world if you look at this d pawn because it's blockaded, but the e5 pawn isn't perfect. And black definitely has compensation, but if you defend, if there's no attack, you're going to be better. So that's rook b8. If they chase the knight away immediately with h6, you of course go knight e4. And this exchange is never dangerous, so most people... Okay, this is a slightly odd case because normally you get this with the bishop on d3. When the bishop isn't hanging, you have the same variation with h6, and then black is going to go knight d5. They aren't going to take. Now there is a tactical line that you simply have to learn. This is just... You have to play these moves or you're going to be worse. It's an engine line I don't understand at all at many points. I just studied it, so I don't think there's an alternative. If black takes the bishop, you have to take on f6, and then you have to take the rook. And black is supposed to have full compensation with queen somewhere and bishop to b7 with pressure on g2. So you have this in the PG and you can find below. I'm not even going to go into that because I don't understand it. I just think it's a minor option black could go for. You simply have to learn, and that's it. If they take the bishop straight away, you of course take the rook. And you could say that this is another case of a forced line you have to know, but it's very, very rare. I've never even seen this online. I think most people with black assume that taking the bishop is just a blunder. It's okay for black, it's close to equal, so have a look at this line as well. But as I said, you're almost never going to see it. Now, the second good move, other than rook b8, and probably the best move, is bishop e7, where black just says, okay, I'm not going to react to queen f3, I'll just castle. So, at this point, when black is close to castling and close to moving the knight to d5 and playing f5 and e4, I recommend moving the bishop back. So once again, we go for, consolidating the e4 square. And when black castles, now we play knight c3. And this is a rare case where knight c3 is a good move. There are other things you could do. In the book, people castle, play bishop f5 or even b4, which I don't understand what b4 does. But if you can play knight c3, then it's usually a very good move, because you're going to go bishop f5 and probably play d3 and play for the e4 square. And you have two knights controlling e4. So it's a pretty comfortable position. I have had a game from this position and I ended up playing bishop f5, d3, a3, b4, and bishop b2. And in the end, I played knight g4, knight c5, and I won the game. And it was a training game online, a 15-minute game. So this is no longer uncomfortable to play, and I don't think there's a reason to go crazy anymore. You can just play bishop d3, knight c3, move the bishop to f5. All exchanges should favor white in theory, because you're up a pawn and black structure is ridiculous. So that's the knight attack, and in many ways this is the basis of the repertoire. This is what you're going to be facing the most. Now, the Traxler. So when you play knight g5, the second option, the second playable option, is bishop c5. And you may notice that the pawn is hanging. It is hanging. Taking with the knight is playable. I don't even know what the engine says. So the engine says knight f7 is just equal. I've never played it. I've never even considered it. And I don't know why black is equal. Everything's hanging, but there are some mad attacks on f2. I think there's an immediate sacrifice. Is there bishop f2 immediately? Yeah. Bishop f2. So the only thing I know is bishop f7, because now you take the pawn and it's with tempo. I should mention that king f8 as a response is never good, because the basis of black's attack is bishop g4 and rook f8 with pressure on f3. So king f8 would just be absurd. You can just move the bishop back and, continue with your life. So king e7. And there are three squares for this bishop. You have to move the bishop because h6 is coming. I like the move bishop d5. Most people don't play bishop d5. They play bishop b3. I think that's the most common, although I'm not sure. No, bishop d5 is the most common. Okay. The idea behind bishop d5 is to play against knight d4 and to play for d4. So we just eliminate the knight. And this move is good because black normally doesn't have time to move the knight somewhere to avoid the trade, because they have to play rook f8. They have to play d6 and bishop g4 and queen e8 and queen h5. They have to start attacking quickly, because if we just consolidate, let's say we go c3, d4 and castle and rook e1, then there's nothing. So it's very likely that we will just take this knight. Also, we defend the pawn. So, okay. Most people play rook f8, we castle, and then they go d6, trying to play for bishop g4. And now we take. We take immediately, and we play for d4. Knight f3 is what I like doing here because it's a trick. Knight e4 just doesn't work. It's if black takes on e4, black is just losing after d4, and you can choose whether to take or to move the bishop back. Whatever you do, you're going to lose the pawn back and then some. If bishop b6, then either queen e1 or rook e1 just works. And if pawn takes, then rook e1, and this is a disaster. So on knight f3, the pawn is immune, so most people play bishop g4. I should say that the best engine move is king f7, but that's unlikely, I think, because the plan is to have a safe king, but that's not what black thinks about in the Traxler. So bishop g4, and now we just go d3, and they are going to start attacking, but it's fine. You eliminate another attacker with bishop e3. You're never unhappy if they trade, because that opens up the f-file, and they are going to try queen h5, move the knight away, sack on, or take on f3, win a pawn, but nah. Just look at the lines in detail. I've given you a PGN below, and you can learn all of those. In short, the Traxler should not be a problem. Now, a minor sideline we have to look at is the Hungarian. I don't know what's it called in your country, but it's probably the same. Bishop e7 instead of bishop c5 or knight f6. I think that's the only sensible alternative to those two moves, although we are going to look at some more, but this is the most popular alternative. Now, we are going to go d4. There are other moves, but yet the idea behind d4 is that you either get a sort of, I don't even know what to call it. What do you call a position after d6? It's not a philidor if you take, but
it looks like it, yeah.
It looks like it. If you go knight c3, then it looks like a philidor, I think. But we're not going to go knight c3. We will take on e5 and exchange queens with a very simple idea of castling queenside. And our plan will be knight c3, bishop e3, castles queenside with, it's very close to equal, but white should always be a tempo or two up because this bishop came back to d8. So I don't think d6 is a likely move most people are going to take, but if they do play d6 exchange, knight c3, bishop e3, castles queenside should be fine. Now, on ed4, we play the most aggressive move c3, and the point behind this is that if the pawn is taken, we have a slight edge that looks like a winning position. I've had people resign here. Some people resigned. It's perfectly fine. The engine says plus 0.4 or something. It seems like an unstoppable attack on f7 unless you play knight h6. And on knight h6 we just take. And of course, if the knight's taken, queen f7 mate. But black is actually fine after castles. And now bishop c1 would be a slight mistake. The best way to play is to just take on g7, king g7, and knight c3. And white should have a comfortable advantage, although nothing close to winning. Let me turn on the engine, plus 0.5, and black is fine. That being said, on c3, dc3 is a mistake for black, and black is perfectly fine after knight a5. And the idea behind knight a5 is that you're just putting pressure on the bishop, so white has to do something. Move the bishop back to e2. Now black needs to save the pawn. They take, and we castle. We don't care if they take on b2, then that's really scary. Most people aren't going to take. If they do, just take back with the bishop. Something like d6, knight c3. And this is the only position in the repertoire where I'm not entirely happy that we have sacrificed a pawn. And this is the only position that worries me. Do you think this is okay for white?
Let me think.
I'll just say that the engine says white is slightly better, but I don't understand why.
I would take black here.
You would take black? Why?
I don't see anything concrete for white, so I think it will evaporate with time.
Maybe queen a4 and d5?
I'm still not convinced.
What do you play with black? I suppose knight f6.
Knight f6, yeah.
Okay, queen a4, knight c6, e5.
Knight d7, maybe?
Knight d7. Can I take on d6 and go bishop b5?
And then I would give up the pawn back and have a bishop pair maybe in the end.
Let's see what the engine says. Interesting.
Aha, queen g4.
Oh, queen g4. Okay. Okay, so not knight d7. The engine says d5. knight e5, and queen d4. And that's equal. Yeah, that does seem equal.
Fair enough.
Yeah, okay, this is fine. So a FIDE master played knight d7. So maybe your opponents are going to make a mistake too. Although, again, I'm not too convinced about this position. Still, it seems fine. So knight a5 is worrying, definitely worrying. But once you learn it and learn some of these ideas like knight d7, how to refute them, you should be fine. Now, the second most important part of our repertoire. So we looked at knight f6, we looked at bishop e7. Now we're going to have a look at bishop c5. And against bishop c5, we are not going to play the most common move, which is to enter a Giuoco Pianissimo with c3, d3, and blah, 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 blah. We're going to castle. And there are two ways for black to play. One way avoids our gambit repertoire, and one allows it. So the most popular move is knight f6. If they go knight f6, we play the Deutz Gambit. And if you've watched my videos for a while, you've seen probably 10 tournament games I have in the opening. And you can also watch the full video below that covers the gambit in detail. That's d4. A very, very interesting gambit. Now, the alternative to knight f6 is d6. And with d6, black avoids knight f6 for a move, which doesn't give us the option to play anything drastic. So we are going to transpose back into the Giuoco Piano and the slow position. This is probably the quietest position, if that's a word, we have in the repertoire. So we're going to go c3. We're going to cover the Giuoco Piano in the next chapter with a different move order, but against d6, we go c3 and no gambit. So knight f6, we go d4. And there are three ways to take that pawn. One way loses, one way is very interesting for white with good attacking chances, and one way is risky for white because black has almost full compensation for the pawn. In my opinion, not really according to the engine. The engine says equal, but I've won game, I've lost games, and I would say that the Deutz Gambit, even though it sounds scary, the player who's better at positional play is going to win. You're going to see those positions. So let's look at the bad move first. Taking with the knight is just bad. I mean, first of all, black has to do something. Moving the bishop is not an option because everything's hanging, so they have to take. Taking with the knight is bad because we go knight e5, and there's pressure on f7. Most people are going to castle. I don't know what else to suggest. There's another line with knight e6, and this is a fun line. You take, if they take with the d pawn, then queen d8, king d8, knight f7, and if they take with the f pawn, then you simply go knight d3. And once the bishop moves, let's say the bishop moves to b6, you can play e5, and the knight cannot go to g4 or to h5. It has to move back to g8, and this is very similar to I forgot the name of the opening. I was just covering it a while back. Very similar knight retreat to g8 after a mistake and allowing e5. So the bishop could have also moved here, but still e5. And basically, you'll have a massive lead in development and the big attack. The engine says winning, and so on and so on. So that's the only move that's seemingly okay, other than castling, which is normal. But castling loses immediately to bishop e3. And now you are forced to go knight e6 because the bishop's hanging. And knight e6 is the only move that doesn't lose a piece. The bishop's hanging and the knight's hanging, so knight e6. But now the same variation. We take on e6. If they take on e6, we just win the bishop. So that doesn't work. So they take on e3. Now we take on f7. They cannot take back. If they play rook f7, we can take the bishop. So they go king h8, and now we just move the bishop back. You could take on e3, that's perfectly fine, but it's even stronger to move the bishop back and to threaten knight f7. They have to save the bishop, and then knight f7, rook f7, bishop f7, and white has a winning material advantage. So that's knight d4. Now, I have a funny story from the Novi Sad tournament in 2019. When did we meet, my love?
Then.
Then? So we were playing in Novi Sad, and this kid came to me before the game and said, "Oh, I watch your videos. I watched your videos on the Deutz Gambit. They're great. I'm gonna play the Deutz Gambit." And we end up playing next to each other, and he plays white, and the girl he was playing against takes knight d4, and the kid and I both start laughing. He won in about 10 moves. It's really funny. Okay, so the second move is e takes. Now this, as Vlatko pointed out, transposes to the Max Lange attack, which could be reached via different move orders. And this is the interesting line I was referring to. So against this we go e5. And black once again has to do something drastic. They have to counterattack, so they play d5. And we get this exchange of knights. White plays rook e1. King f8 is really bad, so most people are going to block with the bishop. There really are no alternatives. And now we play the move. I should say I wanted to play fg, and that's what I originally wanted to recommend, but then Vlatko reminded me of a trick with knight g5. If gf6, then we just take on e6 twice. So that's simple. If queen f6, white wins. That's a seemingly normal move. Vlatko says most people play against him on 1900 level on Lichess or chess.com. I don't know. Blitz?
Blitz.
So queen f6. Now we take on e6. If they take with the queen, they lose the queen. If they take with the f-pawn, they lose the bishop because of this geometry. So that loses. And on knight g5, there are two good moves. Queen d5 defending the bishop, and g6. I actually have a tournament game with queen d5. G6 is the engine recommendation against which white should just defend the pawn. And after castles, the engine says black is slightly better. White's best is to play rook takes e6 and f7. So takes and f7. I would be terrified here for black, and I wouldn't know what's going on. I wouldn't know what's going on with white either. I don't know, but it seems scary. So that's the best engine line, although let's see. Only 3 people have played this on Grandmaster level, so most people know queen d5 as the best move, I guess. And this is what you should be facing. But now, since the queen is pinned, or sorry, the bishop is pinned, therefore the pawn is pinned, you can play knight c3. And if the knight's taken, then you take the queen for free, so the queen has to move once again. And on queen f5, you just save your knight and attack the bishop, and the line goes on. I have a tournament game, although I don't remember the theory anymore. I lost the game, but I had a winning position. I should find that game. There are about 50 games from here, and black should castle queenside or go bishop b6. So that's ED. And that leads to interesting positions for white, which are objectively about equal. Now, the move you will be facing, the best move, bishop d4. Vlatko thinks black is much better here. No?
I don't think.
No?
No.
Didn't you just say that you win most of your games?
No, with white.
Oh, with white. Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
Wait, what do you do against the Deutz Gambit with black?
I didn't play bishop c5.
Ah, okay, okay. He plays knight f6. Yeah, okay. He just said that the knight attack, which we looked in the first chapter, is bad. So yeah, Vlatko plays this with white. I actually have a great score with the Deutz Gambit. Yeah.
In tournament chess, I have 3 out of 3 with white.
With white in the Deutz Gambit.
Yeah.
Rating? 1800, but that's still okay.
Yeah.
Did anyone take with anything other than the bishop?
Yeah, with pawn.
With the pawn? Okay.
1 with pawn, 2 with bishop.
Okay.
And no game lasted more than 23 moves.
So you didn't get those end games?
No.
Okay.
Because people mess up very soon after taking with the bishop.
Okay.
This is like everybody knows, okay, I have to take with the bishop. If
yeah, but I don't know anything else.
They know that, but after taking bishop g5, they find themselves...
What do they play? Come here. You have to show me. Because I have never faced anything bad. So every single one of my games with bishop d4 went knight d4, knight d4. Do you play f4 or bishop g5?
Bishop g5.
Ah, I play f4. Okay, never mind. No, there is also bishop g5, but I play f4 first because I want to have this pressure. So they cannot take because the knight's hanging. They play d6. Okay. takes, takes, and then bishop g5. This is what I do.
Okay.
So wait, you play bishop g5 first, and then how do they mess up?
Well, for example, one game went knight e6.
Okay.
Which I think is immediately engine says 0-0, so you have compensation.
So takes.
In that game, my opponent took with the f pawn.
Okay.
And
Still
after
seems
f4, it's already trouble. Because I think now the only move is queen e7. The only move. I think it's really the only move.
I don't even understand queen e7. Oh, queen c5?
Yes, so that you can recapture the pawn with queen c5 check.
Okay. Okay.
And in that game, my opponent, I think, played c6 here.
That's a weird move.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't, because I think he had the same idea.
Yeah, but
check. Yeah. But actually, I failed to take the pawn. I could take f5, but I was, I don't know.
Queen b5, king h1.
I miscalculated.
So knight e4.
Yeah, this is what I was kind of afraid of, this smothered mate idea on f2 or something. So I didn't play like this. I played knight d2, but the game ended in 19.
Yeah, but this isn't simple at all. The engine says +3, but you have to find all of this.
Yeah, so that's why the game didn't go like that.
Okay, I wouldn't find this. Would you find this?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. In any case, we don't go bishop g5, we go f4. Why don't you go f4?
Because I think it's, I don't know, I find this more interesting, and it also, there's a trick if they try immediately to break pin with h6 and g5, then there's this Rosentrater variation, I think it's called.
With immediate h6?
Yeah, and bishop h4 and g5. Now you play f4.
Ooh.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Bome. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you play f4. But and if they take the bishop, everything's falling apart.
Rook takes, maybe.
If they take the pawn?
Then you take with the rook, I think.
Oof.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, this is very good.
Yeah. Yeah, take with the rook.
Yeah.
Quite easy to blunder, like.
Yeah, quite
very easy to
and
blunder.
if they take bishop, then of course also everything is falling apart after f takes e.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything is hanging. Yeah.
This is simpler. Very nice. Okay, but we're gonna go into the end game.
Sorry.
No. It's, I don't play the line, so I had no idea what happens. So d6 takes, and there are a couple of normal moves for black after bishop g5. There's a line I don't remember anymore. I think one opponent played knight e6 against me, and this is supposed to be quite bad. You just trade, they take with the knight, you take on f6, take the pawn back, and I mean, black has given the pawn back, and there is just no compensation for the ruined kingside pawn structure. So this really shouldn't be worrying. Something like this. I think this is fine. So most people are not going to do that. People are going to go bishop e6 or queen e7. The best engine move is queen e7. Just covering everything, getting away from the d-file, and preparing to castle queenside, actually. Because you don't want this annoying pressure if white ever takes and doubles the g-pawns. There could be some trouble after, let's say, knight a3, c3, or c3, and if the queen isn't threatening queen c5, maybe transferring the knight to f5 after the trade of bishops. So if the g-file is open, black could be in trouble. So in queen e7, the idea is you want to play queen c5 check in some cases and pick up the bishop. So that's a tactical thing we have to be worried about. So there are moves like knight a3 here defending the bishop, or king h1. I recommend king h1. But the second idea behind queen e7 is to just play bishop e6 and castles queenside. And this is what gave me most trouble, although I have never faced it in a tournament game. Most people play bishop e6. So we go king h1, they go bishop e6. We go knight d2, we develop, and they castle queenside. And again, let's turn on the engine. The engine says 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. But I would take black because I don't really see full compensation for white. Still, it's interesting because of the pin, and white definitely isn't worse. I just think it's more comfortable to play black. So we go c3, chase the knight away, queen e2, and in most blitz games, I've had this mostly in blitz games online. I would just play a5. I go a4, a5. I would just push my a pawn, try to create some weaknesses, and then I would play h3, bring the bishop back to e3 to prevent knight g4 and start attacking. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. It's equal and it's interesting. So you've heard Vlatko's recommendation to play bishop g5 straight away in this position. You can also consider that. Now that I think about it, it seems more interesting to me as well. So, but I've never played it before, so I couldn't recommend it. But have a look into that as well. Now, the alternative to knight f6 here, allowing the Deutz, is d6. And I'm going to teach you a very simple setup I've played many times that gives you very uncommon Giuoco Piano positions. You have no choice but to enter the boring Italian now. This is the only chapter where we actually have to play the Italian. So we're going to go c3. And when they go knight f6, we're going to go b4 immediately. And bishop b6 is the only move. a4, now black can play a6 or a5. I believe a5 is a better move. So after a5, we go b5, the knight goes to e7. And you should get this position in about 10 seconds in online games. Now, the way to play this is kind of tricky. What I like to do is rook e1, d3, bishop e3, and then knight d2 or knight a3, offering a trade of bishops if black attacks that bishop. So we start with rook e1, we have to defend the pawn. Let's say they go bishop g4, we go d3, and now from here on, there are many things black could do. There are no book games, because this is a strange line, as you can see here, and the engine says bishop h5, or castles, or knight g6. I don't know if c6 works, it probably doesn't work. Let's see. No, it's okay. On c6, we can exchange. So there are many moves for black, but I'm guessing most people would either castle and play knight g6 or play knight g6 and then castle, because those are the normal moves. We will go bishop e3, and now, of course, if black takes, then we are covering the f4 square, and we are never afraid of ideas of knight h5, knight f4, and we're also preparing d4. So we are never afraid of bishop takes e3. That's always fine. And if they allow us to take, the b pawn isn't really a major target, but if we manage to get the knight to c4, it could be. So black should probably do something. The best way to play, I think, is to play d5. And this is the only tricky idea you have to know, not just in this position, but in many similar positions. I remember running into this pattern. I just started playing chess. That was 8 years ago against some 80-year-old guy in a tournament in Croatia. He played d5. We had this exact position, although maybe my knight was on a3. I don't remember. Maybe castles, knight a3, and then d5, something like that. In any case, he played d5, and I didn't know what to do, so I took the pawn, which is correct. And then after knight d5, I took on b6. He played knight b6, and then I played bishop b3, which is a mistake. And I'm going to recommend either knight a3 or knight d2. I think knight d2 is better, because knight d2 does two things. It defends the bishop, so you can recapture with the knight. And then if you have a knight on c4, it gets really hard to play c6 or b6, because the knight controls all the squares. And you could even consider, let's say they take c6, you could consider b6. This is a very scary pawn. This is a very easy target. And
sorry, can you take on e5 here as a trick?
I don't know. I was just explaining the concepts. Yeah. I'm going too deep into the position. And on c6, yeah, I think you can. There are no tricks. You just take. Why not?
No, with the f knight even.
Oh, with the f knight. Why would you take with the f?
Queens, like, to simplify. You have knight c6 and you'll take on d8.
Okay, but why wouldn't you just take the pawn with the c9?
You take 2 pawns. Like,
Okay, you take 2 pawns. Okay, that makes sense.
and then a5 also hangs, so... Yeah, here you take on e7 with the knight and take back.
Okay, yeah, this is nice. Okay, so c6 doesn't work. I was just trying to show that the knight on c4 isn't a bad piece. So black probably shouldn't take on c4, let's say the castle. It's just a comfortable position where you have pressure on e5, and you have ideas like queen b3 even, and I've even in online games played ideas like bishop a2 and queen b3. And if you, let's say black is bad, and I've had people take, instead of castling, I've had people take, then transferring the queen and bishop to this diagonal or simply keeping the queen on f3 could be very, very powerful. So that's what we do in the Giuoco Piano. This is, if you turn on the book, around 97 you will see very few or no games. And it's a very rare setup. The idea of b4 is known, but in this exact position where black avoids playing knight f6 early and avoids the Deutz Gambit, I think it's a very nice surprise. Now, to finish with, we're going to have a look at 2 very weird openings. One of them is almost like a Philidor. It's technically called the Paris Defense, although I have only heard of this today. I called it d6. I faced it a few times. This is a Philidor. We go d4, and we play it like a Philidor. You can watch my full playlist on the Philidor if you want more details. Black could take or not take. It doesn't really matter. It's a Philidor. Let's say they take. We take back with the knight. Knight f6, knight c3. At some point we're going to go a4. We're going to castle. We are going to consider f4, maybe, if we want to risk things, or h3, bishop e3. We can even castle queenside with queen e2, h3, bishop e3 castles. But what I usually like to do is I like to play a4 to keep the bishop stable, and it's just a normal Philidor position. And the final thing doesn't even have a name. I call it g6, and I think most people call it g6. If they play g6, you just go d4. And once they take, takes and bishop g7. Of course, taking with the knight is, what do they do, queen f6? I don't even know. I don't think people are going to take with the knight. So bishop g7, we take on c6, bc6, and castles, and this is just a slight advantage for white. It's really not a good opening for black. Knight f6 could even be running into e5. I don't know. So let's say knight e7, knight c3, castles, and I don't know. I imported bishop g5 because it looks okay. Maybe bishop e3 is better, but it's... I think everyone would take white here. There's no one would take black. There's no reason to play g6. But I just wanted to mention it because it's a move. Okay, so that's the repertoire. You have the link to it on Nocti below, and I have also linked the videos in detail on each variation, except for this Paris stuff and g6. So yeah, let me know what you think. This should serve as a simple repertoire you can start playing today. That being said, if you're reasonably high rated, you should actually learn it in way more detail. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Milan, for sitting next to me.
Thank you.
And see you next time. Bye-bye.